Murphy's Law happens to the best of us, including most musicians, but the Homespun Ceilidh Band turned a bunch of funny stories inspired by the law into a fun song. And I share a story about another Murphy, Captain Blackjack Murphy, and how a Talk Like a Pirate Day accent turned into a dreadful story of air pirates and hunting dragons. It's all on Pub Songs and Stories, show number 241. Welcome to Pub Songs and Stories. This is the virtual public house for musicians to share the stories and inspiration behind their music with your host, Marc Gunn. Subscribe to the podcast at pubsong.com. Greetings all. How are you doing today? I hope you're having a fantastic day. I am getting ready for a farmer's market gig and then a vacation, which is coming next week for me. Hopefully you won't be affected. And maybe I'll have some stories to tell later this week when I do my Firefly drinking songs show. But first, today's show is, as always, brought to you by my gun runners on Patreon. You can get MP3s of my songs that I play in the show. And of course, I have lots of other exclusive podcasts and blogs that I share over there. Special thanks to Angela Hughes, Tom Corcoran, two of our new annual gun runners. Thank you so much for supporting my music and this podcast. Facebook went down at the beginning of October, and there was this whole Twitter hashtag about it. And yeah, in order to find out what happened, I too had to go to Twitter. That just cracks me up. But it served a great reminder of the problem of social media. So many people rely on it for like news. But it's hard to keep it in your mind that the things you get off social media are not news. They are fake news and misinformation at best. So don't use it as a news source. Now, putting aside bad algorithms, it is still detrimental for people to rely on it, especially if you have a business like I do. I learned back in like 2000 to really not trust third-party systems. MP3.com suffered a similar problem. The Rubbernegging Bards had t-shirts that said mp3.com/the Bards. And then shortly after that shirt came out, mp3.com was closed down. And so ever since then, I've had my own mailing list and my own website, and they are the places you need to go to find out news about me, that's for sure. And I think it's safe to say that that's the case with every musician. So if you are not yet subscribed to my mailing list, please do so. And if you find an artist on this podcast whose music you enjoy, then subscribe to their mailing list. Don't let your whole world disappear when Facebook eventually does, because they all do at some point. It seems like it's too big, and then poof, what happens? It gets broken up, something happens. So go sign up to my mailing list. You can do that at pubsong.net. Quick and easy way to sign up. Upcoming shows. This Thursday is Firefly Drinking Songs. This is a live streaming show on Bandcamp. It starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. I hope you'll come join me. I'm going to be doing a full Firefly Drinking Songs show, and then I might take a few requests afterwards. So come join me. And then on October 30th is the Lost Druid, and that's going to be a sort of a costumed event. November 5th through 7th is CONjuration convention I'm doing. Now, Coffee with the Celtfather I've been promoting as every Thursday at noon. I'm having trouble with Thursdays. So starting next week, that's going to be October 27th, Wednesday, October 27th at 11 a.m. That's the continuation of season 9. I apologize if you're so used to that Thursday days, but I think it's time to change it back to Wednesday. I think originally when I moved it to a Thursday, it was because Wednesday was the day that the kids had off during the pandemic. So I couldn't do Wednesdays, and Thursdays seemed to work better. So nevertheless, I'm going to move it to Wednesdays, 11 a.m., so a little bit earlier as well. I hope you'll come join me. And now it's time for the story of Murphy's Law. I'm really pleased to introduce you to Daphne Arthur from the Homespun Ceilidh Band. Daphne shares a story about Murphy's Law and how that turned into a song. But she also shared a story with me right after sending me the audio files, and I could totally relate. So I'm going to share that with you really quick. Since I know how you feel about cats, she writes, I should share this. Guillaume, alien disguised as a dilute orange tabby, was pestering me the whole time I was recording this afternoon, pawing my leg, trying to tell me he needed something urgently, with a short break in the middle to sulk. Look upon your poor, despondent cat and feel guilty. Didn't want petting or scritching, didn't want to be picked up. I saved and exported my work and came into the next room. He followed me and immediately started eating. He wasn't asking for more kibble, there was plenty, but he needed me to be there before he'd eat. My last cat, Perrine, was even more like that. She preferred that I not only be present, but eating when she ate. Thank you so much, Daphne, for sharing that story, and now for sharing this one.
I'm Daphne Arthur from the Homespun Ceilidh Band. We do a song called Mrs. Murphy's Band, written by Trix Whitehall. She's one of our drummers, she's our singer, and she's our dance caller. And she likes to introduce the song by saying, everybody thinks of Murphy, of Murphy's Law, causing trouble. But she figures there's a Mrs. Murphy as well, who specifically follows performers around, causing trouble for us. Everyone knows of Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, it will. Blunders, mishaps, accidents, we've surely had our fill. Everything seemed normal, then disaster struck on every hand, the day that our musicians played in Mrs. Murphy's Band. Now, every performer who's been in the game a while has plenty of stories about things that went wrong on stage or off, and things that were just plain weird at gigs. And anybody who's new to performing, you'll have stories soon enough. So in that way, the song is meant to be kind of universal. All bands have these sorts of things happen. But in the particulars, in the details, every line of a verse in this song is about something that happened to us, the Homespun Ceilidh Band, at or in one verse on the way to a gig. It's all true. It just didn't all happen at the same gig the way the song tells it. Telling all the stories behind this song would take way too long. But let me give you one verse. This verse matches together two separate wedding reception gigs in different years. The first was at a yacht club on a private island here in Maryland, and it was less than the full band, just a few of us, no sound man. The first problem was we kept blowing a breaker on a circuit that the caterers were also using, so for a while folks had to choose between music and coffee until we found a workaround for that. Fortunately, a couple of us had battery-powered amps or tiny individual amps in our cars that we could drag out and switch to, so we played that way the rest of the gig. Now, most of the guests weren't already Celtic music fans, but apparently anything loud enough and lively enough was okay, at least when we were playing for atmosphere. But then came time for dancing, which was part of the deal when we were hired. And Trix had a devil of a time getting drunk rich people to focus on the steps she was teaching. And then half the people dancing in a Strip the Willow set, of all things, were trying to do it one-handed because they didn't want to set their drinks down. Quite a sight. They all had fun and we got paid, so that makes the gig a success. Definitely not one we're going to forget. The audience got drunk and drove the singer to despair. She tried to teach a Ceilidh dance. They scattered everywhere. They talked so loud we could hardly hear. We thought it mighty rude. The caterers made us eat outside when we finally got our food. Now that last line is about the other wedding. At this one of our members was also a friend of the couple and an invited guest in his own right. Now, we usually get along well with caterers. We do a lot of catered gigs. We do wedding receptions. We do Burns nights. Various things where food is involved. And we try not to get in their way, and they appreciate that. And we all take the attitude that we're on the same side. The food crew, the music crew, we're both there to make the event good for the guests. And the caterers often do little things to be helpful and make sure we don't get hungry or thirsty. But there have been a couple of exceptions, and this was one of those exceptions. These caterers seemed to resent having food for the band in their contract, so when we took our break and went looking for food, they were rather curt. They acted kind of offended that we wanted to eat. They handed us tiny box lunches with a sandwich, a bag of potato chips, and a juice box or something in each, sent us out to eat in the alleyway, by the dumpster, in the rain. Not much rain, but we were definitely getting rained on. Meanwhile, the band member who was also a guest had gone to his assigned seat, introduced himself to the other guests at his table, and was eventually served a proper fancy meal, but he didn't get time to finish it before our next set. Then when we took our next break and he went back to his table to eat more, the caterers had already cleared away his unfinished meal. So he actually wound up hungrier than the rest of us. The couple were pretty annoyed when they found out how the caterers had treated us. Anyhow, Mrs. Murphy's Band is a song where the story behind the song is actually a whole anthology of stories.
Murphy's Law, if something can go wrong it will. Blunders, mishaps, accidents, we surely had our fill. Everything seemed normal, then disasters loomed on every hand. The day that our musicians played in Mrs. Murphy's Band, the soundman laid the cables, set the speakers the sound. He sat down with a sigh and said, we're ready for the band. And a bunch of mics fell over and destroyed a music stand. Oh, everyone's heard of Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, it will. Blunders, mishaps, accidents, we surely had our fill. Everything seemed normal, then disasters loomed on every hand. The day that our musicians played in Mrs. Murphy's band. Two fiddlers played the lively reel, the first one broke a string. He sat down to repair it while the other played a fling. But as the bow went racing, it flew out of her hand and landed at the drummer's feet in Mrs. Murphy's band. Oh, everyone's heard of Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, it will. Blunders, mishaps, accidents, we surely had our fill. Everything seemed normal, and disasters loomed on every hand. The day that our musicians played in Mrs. Murphy's band. The guitarist strummed the mighty chord, his string it snapped in two. He grabbed his other instrument to see what he could do. But as he began the tune again, he broke another string. The dulcimer player ducked and hollered, what is happening? The car broke down in Delaware, the traffic was a fright. Directions to the place were wrong, we drove for half the night. The wind was howling in our mics and caused guitars to fall. The citern played a lovely tune you couldn't hear at all. Oh, everyone's heard of Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, it will. Blunders, mishaps, accidents, we surely had our fill. Everything seemed normal, then disasters loomed on every hand. The day that our musicians played in Mrs. Murphy's band. The audience got drunk and drove the singer to despair. She tried to teach a ceilidh dance, they scattered everywhere. They talked so loud we could hardly hear, we thought it mighty rude. The caterers made us eat outside when we finally got our food. Oh, everyone's heard of Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, it will. Blunders, mishaps, accidents, we've surely had our fill. Everything seemed normal, and disasters loomed on every hand. The day that our musicians played in Mrs. Murphy's band. The music blew right off the stand, the dancer lost a shoe. The flutist sat upon his flute and lost his temper too. The gamba wouldn't stay in tune, recorder sounded flat. And someone straightened up the stage and lost the strummer's hat. Oh, everyone's heard of Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, it will. Blunders, mishaps, accidents, we surely had our fill. Everything seemed normal, and disasters loomed on every hand. The day that our musicians played in Mrs. Murphy's band. Now remember Mr. Murphy's Law, you'll never go astray. Clip your music to the stand so it doesn't fly away. Expect the unexpected, keep extra strings at hand. And thank your lucky stars you're not in Mrs. Murphy's band. Oh, everyone's heard of Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong, it will. Blunders, mishaps, accidents, we surely had our fill. Everything seemed normal, and disasters loomed on every hand. The day that our musicians played in Mrs. Murphy's band.
I hope you enjoyed that story and that song, Mrs. Murphy's Band. It's from their self-titled album, Homespun Ceilidh Band. You can find them at homespunceilidh.com. And that's the Scottish version of Ceilidh, Ceilidh. Gotta love the Celts. Support what you love. If you enjoy these stories, then join the Gunrunners Club on Patreon. Your support pays for the promotion and production of my music and Pub Songs and Stories podcasts. You can save 15% when you join with an annual membership. Plus, you get a download of the song from this show. So let's hear the story and song that you will download this week when you join today. Story of the Wreck of the Bold Irish Stout. I don't play very many songs from Pirates vs. Dragons these days. I really loved how the album came out, but the songs feel a little off point from my music in general, and that's probably because it was a concept album. It has a story behind it. I was playing a character in that story, even though the character was technically me. It's just, I don't know. I haven't figured out how to get past that. It just feels weird sometimes. Now, the story of Pirates vs. Dragons was about me being shanghaied by air pirates led by Captain Blackjack Murphy. Captain Murphy was a character I created as part of the Renaissance Festival podcast back in 2006 or 2007, I forget. It was a Talk Like a Pirate Day episode. So I put on a brogue and I created this pirate character and his ship, the Irish Stout. Now, the story of Murphy blossomed from there. In 2010, I wanted a steampunk-inspired album about me being shanghaied by air pirates, so I asked Ree Sheridan Rose to write the lyrics for this story, and we fleshed it out in 2015 when I finally tackled the album. Again, I love the story that came out of this project. There's a whole ebook that you can actually buy. The idea was that I was writing an album to praise Captain Blackjack Murphy, but my secret mission was to save the dragons. And one of the songs that came out of it was The Wreck of the Bold Irish Stout. Again, Ree was writing with the idea that these songs were more sea shanties than anything, but I sort of infused my own musical style. So many of the songs, including this one, came out not quite sea shanty, but it's a great story. And I love the storytelling that she made in this song. And if it was shorter, I might actually play it at shows. And it tells the story of how dangerous it is to hunt dragons and the motivations behind some dragons. So let me sing the final song for this show. This is The Wreck of the Bold Irish Stout from Pirates vs. Dragons. I hope you have a wonderful week. I should be back next week with a story about a Mingulay boat song and the Boston graveyard. I'll talk to you soon. Sláinte, here's The Wreck of the Bold Irish Stout. I'll tell you a story of pirates so bold, who sailed through the air to put gold in our hold. We sacked lots of merchants and navy men too, but when we took on a dragon, our payment was due. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. We first found her lair in the mountain so tall, the cave up so high we'd hard to see it at all. We anchored a lee and we slid down the ropes, giggling like schoolmen and strolling like dopes. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. We had never been bested as yet as a crew. We were bold, young and strong, and we knew what to do. Till Davy and Jonas were snatched in those jaws, and young Tammy Carter was split by her claws. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. There's only a moment before we got wise. One dragon is worth more than 20 our size. We fell back a-panting to the ship and her guns, and wished that the cannonballs weighed 50 tons. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. Well, the first shot went wide and she roared in her ire, and a blast from her maul set the poop deck on fire. The captain, he cursed at the cost to his ship, as her tail spread the mast and around it did whip. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. Let's haul our smee hearties, the captain he cried, for she splinter our guts on that cold mountainside. He drew out his cutlass and parted the rope, and we crawled away slowly, not daring to hope. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. We were sure we were goners, or charcoal at best, but the dragon turned around and went back to her nest. A single conclusion made every man frown. We weren't worth the trouble of hunting us down. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. Now we limped our way down to the nearest seaport, and the shipwrights all at our poor ship they did snort. Their laughter, it rang from the shore to the skies. You weren't the first idiots to seek in that prize. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do, sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. fly high, diddly-di-do. Sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. So when you hunt dragons, remember their might, and don't go thinking it's an average fight. Best sneak up behind them with cunning and stealth, or instead of a stealing, you'll add to their wealth. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do. Sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do. Sing and fly low, diddly-di-do. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do. Sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. Sing and fly high, diddly-di-do. Sing and fly low, diddly-di-day. Pub Songs Podcast is produced by Marc Gunn. The show is edited by Mitchell Peterson with graphics by Miranda Nelson Designs. You can subscribe and listen wherever you find podcasts. You can also subscribe to my mailing list. You will get regular updates of new music, podcasts, special offers, and you'll get 21 songs for free. Welcome to the pub at pubsong.com.